Welcome back to Evil's Comics. This guy right here is Evil Mike, or Mike if you prefer, and I got a review for you today. We're going to be talking about Patra from Dark Horse Comics. But before we get started, please like, comment, subscribe on this guy's channel. It does help. I'm trying to hit that 1K, milestone. I'm almost there. Alright, so let's get into it. Patra, right? Dark Horse Comics. We got this beautiful cover. It's fantastic, The story is written by James Robinson. Art by Scott Kolins, and then we got letters by Jim Campbell, and I'm assuming the colors are also Scott Kolins, and the cover is, this one in particular is done by Scott Kolins, but there is a cover B by Francesco Francavilla. Alright, so let's get started. So we start out with, kind of like a backstory, but this story is being narrated, and we start off in this little small town in Belford, Minnesota in July 20th, 2022, and it's the sheriffs pulling up to a crime scene, specifically a house in a neighborhood, and it is a bloodbath. They walk in and it's just not what they're prepared for. You can see right here the sheriffs and stuff, they're kind of giving you the brief information that they got on the call, but it's very little. They kind of divide their team and they split up and everything. I'm kind of just going to speed through these pages because that's basically it. But eventually they make it into the house, as you can see, and we get to see some of the scene. As the book goes along, we'll get a little more of how it looks inside. But it is pretty grisly, and at this point on, this is a horror book. I will say the content is pretty graphic as far as like what it's based on. The artwork, it's expected horror vibe art. Okay, so anyways, at the bottom here, you can see that we have our main character. We don't get her name in the story. It kind of like jokes around with that twice during the story, but I'm going to call her Patra just because it's the title of the book. But that might not be her name. We don't get that in this first issue. But we get Patra, and she's waking up in the woods somewhere far away from her home. She doesn't know what's going on. She's freaking out. She is that little girl, I want to say like 8 or 9, something like that. Maybe younger, it could be 7. But she's, for some reason, out in the woods. She's by herself. We go to the next page, and all of a sudden, as she's walking through the woods, you can see right here, it's just this mask, and this big bloody knife appears, with her. On the next page, you can see that as soon as she notices that the mask and the knife is there, she tosses it off, and as you can see in the art, the mask and the knife hits the ground and disappears, so she thinks she's dreaming. She continues to make her way through the forest, and another weird coincidence, Dart the dog shows up, and he's their deceased pet that she had when her family had when she was smaller, and he got hit by a car or something. So she's still kind of really leading on to this is a dream kind of thing. She continues making her way through the woods. We cut back over to a different scene in Minnesota, and it's following with the sheriffs, but really it's the narrator of the story. We find out who that is, and this is the guy that's pulling up in this fancy Cadillac. But basically he's looking for these sheriffs that are dealing with this case, and we find out this doctor is Dr. DeCari, I think that's how you say it. We find out he is the one that's narrating this, from a past perspective, but he's the one that's narrating. But he makes it to these cops. He kind of states that he shows up there like unexpectedly because a different occasion. It has nothing to do with the murder case, and as they're talking, he finds out about the murder case, and so anyways, we kind of hear why he showed up on his own regard, and it's because he's in charge of a mental institute, and he runs like a certain part of the clinic or something like that, and it's for the most deranged and mental people out there or whatever. In no form of regard is this a snide at that. This is just me talking about the story and stuff, but this is what this guy does. He runs like and basically one of his patients have escaped. Now he doesn't call it like a mental institute. I think it's like some kind of school that he calls it, and he doesn't label them as patients or something like that. It's kind of like a different way of looking at a mental institute or a mental health hospital kind of thing. Um, so he explains that he has this one inmate that's extra crazy, and his name is Jeremiah Jones, and he's recently escaped, and that's why he's come to, you know, seek out the sheriffs. And that's kind of when, you know, I'm going to show you on this page right here. That's when they kind of go into Jeremiah, and I think it's Jeremy Jones, I'm sorry. Not Jeremiah, but Jeremy Jones. Bad with names, guys. But Jeremy Jones, we get his little backstory shown here, and it's basically like, you know, it was him and his little orphan sister, and something bad happened, and now every time he does like a murder, he goes after like, you know, people with little girls specifically, you know, and that's part of his like serial killer slash routine kind of thing. And then it kind of lines up with this whole story, because with this story, you know, that we do find, you know, that basically that everybody in that family was kind of murdered, and it was just like the little girl that was left over. So we jump back over to Patra in the woods, and she's walking, then all of a sudden she kind of notices that somebody's there. She quickly like hides real quick in a bush, you know, before this guy kind of walks out. But this would be, and we don't really get a definition on this either, but this would be Jeremy Jones, and you can see he's got like a supernatural thing, because it looks like he has one of those kind of knives or whatever. So he kind of hears that somebody is there. She kind of panics. The mask and the knife comes out. Again, she throws it away kind of thing, as you can see here. When she throws it down, that's when he like knows that because he sees the skull mask, as you can see, but it fades away. So he starts like, you know, panicking, looking around for who's out there with him kind of thing. And he thinks he's found her. He does this whole like back and forth, and eventually like she does end up climbing a tree, and she hides in a tree. This is where we find out like the whole backstory about like the cops going into the house and what they found and what they didn't find, because basically it was like they found everybody but the daughter of the family that was murdered. The psychologist shown right here, he kind of like imagines how Jeremy Jones would have came into the house, and that's what they're showing you right there, that he just would have killed the person that answered the door, gone to the next adult, and then taken out the children as shown in the pictures. But eventually stating, and they do show her picture at the bottom, like, you know, down here, but stating that they didn't find the little girl and stuff like that. And then we flip back over to Patra, and she's, you know, now that this guy has gone, he didn't find her, she stayed up in the tree, and now that he is gone, she's decided to climb back down the tree, and she's moving throughout the forest. Eventually that mask coming back on, and as soon as like that mask just suddenly appears, like it knows to come back, that's when we get our last page of the book, and it's basically Jeremy has found her. We get a little more like detail into Jeremy Jones, because in the book it's just a red flash, so it looks like he's covered in blood. Here it's more like he's got like powers, like you can see the thing on his face, and here it looks like blood and everything, but really it looks like, you know, it could be blood, it could be like some stuff that's emanating from under his shirt, you know, like some red highlighted lights. I don't know. But that's basically where the book ends, is Jeremy grabbing this girl, and this girl's catchphrase is "Jeepers." And we do get a preview cover to the next issue shown here, "Escape from Jeremy Jones or Die." So it's going to be kind of like a crucial thing. I really love this first issue. I asked a couple different people that had heard about it, and they really didn't. So I kind of like finding books like this that don't really have like a huge following or huge well-known. It's also kind of a bad thing, because it doesn't mean it's getting the light of day that it needs to. But honestly, it's a traditional slasher type of book with a supernatural thing. Honestly, it reminds me a lot of Halloween, the way the doctor is set up in that story. It's almost the same feel, but this has, it's different enough to be its own thing, and I kind of like it, especially with the child aspect. That's not done enough in my regard. Like there are a couple, like of course Chucky and some other movies like that, but there's not enough like little kid horror, and that, to me, that can be very creepy, and also like harrowing, and you know, honestly, it could be a really cool thing. But guys, this was my review. I really like this book. I like the art. I've read, you know, Another book by Jamie Robinson, I think he just did, Junk Rabbit was the one they did before this, and I enjoyed that. Um, so I was kind of on board with this one, but I didn't know what to expect. So getting into it and finding the supernatural parts to it, and the art style and everything is pretty clear and straightforward, especially for a horror book. Sometimes they go real abstract with horror books, and it's nice to get clarification sometimes. But guys, that's my review. Let me know down below what you thought of this book. Did you like it? Did you even hear about it? Now that you've heard about it, are you going to go out and try and find it, kind of thing? I'm pretty sure it just dropped last week, so I'm pretty sure it's still on shelves. But guys, that's my review. I'll let y'all go. Thanks for watching. Please hit that like button, comment below.